Those who didn't know your partner was rich. How did you find out? I thought my boyfriend Jake was just another broke college guy working construction to pay for school. We'd been dating for 8 months, and everything about him screamed regular. Blue-collar guy. His work boots were beat up. His jeans had paint stains. And he always showed up to dates in this rusty old Ford pickup that made weird noises when he turned corners. When we went out, we'd split everything 50-50ths. He'd suggest cheap places to eat and always seemed careful about money. I actually loved that about him because my last boyfriend was this spoiled rich kid who expected me to pay for everything. Jake worked these crazy long shifts, sometimes 12 hours a day. And he'd come home exhausted with dirt under his fingernails. He lived in this tiny studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a mini fridge that barely worked. The guy ate ramen noodles for dinner more nights than I could count. Everything about his life felt real and honest, which is why I fell for him so hard. Then one Friday, Jake said he wanted to take me on a weekend trip to the mountains. I was excited because we'd never done anything like that before. He told me to pack nice clothes, which seemed weird since we were supposedly going camping. When Friday came, I was standing outside my dorm waiting for his beat-up truck to roll up. Instead, this sleek black Porsche 911 pulled up to the curb. The engine sounded like pure power, and the paint job was so perfect it looked like a mirror. I laughed and kept looking around for Jake's truck. The Porsche window rolled down, and there he was, wearing the same old construction clothes, but sitting behind the wheel of what had to be a $100,000 car. My jaw dropped. I walked over and asked if he'd rented it for the weekend, expecting him to laugh and explain the joke. Instead, his face went red and he looked down at the steering wheel. When I pressed him about it, he tried changing the subject, asking if I was ready to go, but that car sitting there was impossible to ignore. During the 2-hour drive, Jake kept fidgeting with the radio and avoiding eye contact. When we got to the resort, he handed his keys to the valet like it was totally normal. The place was fancy, like really fancy. Crystal chandeliers in the lobby, marble floors, and people dressed like they stepped out of magazines. Jake walked up to the front desk and upgraded our room to a suite without even asking about the price. The desk clerk was treating him like he was some kind of VIP, calling him Mr. Patterson and asking about his usual preferences. At dinner that night, Jake ordered the most expensive wine on the menu without looking at the prices. When I mentioned it seemed pricey, he just shrugged and said we were celebrating. The next day, he surprised me with a helicopter tour of the mountains. I kept asking how much everything cost, and he kept dodging the question. By Sunday, I was completely confused and suspicious. This guy who ate dollar store mac and cheese was dropping money like it meant nothing. When we got back to town, I finally confronted him in the parking lot of my dorm. I asked him straight up if he was in some kind of trouble or hiding something from me. That's when Jake's whole face changed. He looked terrified, like I'd caught him in some huge lie. He started stammering about how he could explain everything, but it wasn't what I thought. I told him I wasn't moving until he told me the truth. That's when Jake confessed everything. He wasn't just a construction worker. He owned the entire construction company. He'd started working construction when he was 16 to help his single mom pay bills. After high school, instead of college, he kept working and saved every penny. When the housing boom hit our area 3 years ago, he used his savings to buy equipment and started his own crew. Then last year, when his old boss wanted to retire, Jake bought out the whole company. He was now employing 30 guys and had contracts all over the state. I was stunned. This guy I thought was barely getting by was actually a millionaire who chose to live like he was broke. Jake explained that he kept wearing his old clothes and driving his beat-up truck because that's who he really was. The Porsche was something he'd bought himself after landing a huge commercial contract. But he was scared to drive it because he didn't want people treating him differently. He said he'd almost told me about the money dozens of times, but he wanted to make sure I liked him for who he was. Not what Hay thought my boyfriend Jake was just another broke college guy working construction to pay for school. We'd been dating for 8 months, and everything about him screamed regular blue-collar guy. His work boots were beat up, his jeans had paint stains, and he always showed up to dates in this rusty old Ford pickup that made weird noises when he turned corners. When we went out, we'd split everything 50-50ths. He'd suggest cheap diners or food trucks, and he always kept an eye on the bill. Honestly, I loved that about him. After dating a spoiled rich kid in the past who expected me to pay for everything, Jake felt real. He worked brutal shifts, sometimes 12 hours a day, coming home exhausted with dirt under his fingernails and his hands rough from labor. He lived in this tiny studio apartment with peeling paint, a mattress on the floor, and a mini fridge that barely worked. He ate ramen or canned soup more nights than I could count. Everything about his life felt grounded and genuine, and that's why I fell for him so hard. Then, one Friday, he said he wanted to take me on a weekend trip to the mountains. "Pack something nice," he said casually. "We won't be roughing." It seemed odd since he'd told me we were going camping, but I didn't question it. I was excited. This was our first real trip together. Friday came, and I was waiting outside my dorm, expecting his loud, rattling truck to roll up. Instead, a sleek black Porsche 911 glided to the curb like something out of a movie. The engine purred like pure power, and the paint was flawless, gleaming under the sunlight. I actually laughed because I thought it was a mistake. But then the window rolled down and there was Jake, still in his beat-up work clothes, sitting behind the wheel of what had to be a $100,000 car. "Did you rent this?" I asked, stunned. He hesitated, cheeks flushing red. "Hop in, I'll explain later," he said, dodging my question. During the 2-hour drive, he fidgeted with the radio and avoided eye contact while I sat there spiraling. Nothing about this made sense. When we arrived, my jaw nearly hit the ground. The cabin he booked turned out to be a luxury mountain resort. Crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, valet service, the kind of place I'd only ever seen in magazines. Jake walked up to the front desk confidently, handing over his keys to the valet without blinking. The desk clerk greeted him warmly, even calling him Mr. Patterson and asking about his usual preferences like he was a frequent guest. He upgraded us to a suite without glancing at the price. At dinner that night, he ordered a $300 bottle of wine like it was nothing. "We're celebrating," he said, with a grin when I questioned it. "Celebrating what?" The next day, he surprised me with a helicopter tour of the mountains. I laughed nervously, asking, "Jake, how are you paying for all this?" "Ah." He just smiled and kissed my forehead. By Sunday night, I was too confused to stay quiet. When we got back to my dorm parking lot, I finally confronted him. "Jake, are you in trouble? Are you dealing drugs or something?" He froze, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him. His hands gripped the steering wheel like he was bracing himself. "It's not that," he muttered. "I can explain, but you're going to think I lied to you?" I crossed my arms. "You did lie to me." "So start explaining," he sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. Then he said it. "I own the construction company, the whole thing. I'm not just a worker. I started at 16 to help my mom pay bills. I saved every penny I could. 3 years ago, when the housing boom hit, I used my savings to buy equipment and hired my own crew. Last year, when my old boss retired, I bought him out. Now I run the company. 30 guys work for me." I stared at him, speechless. This man, I thought was barely scraping by, was actually a millionaire. I kept it quiet because I didn't want you to see me differently, he continued. I wear old clothes and drive my truck because that's who I am. The Porsche, I bought it after landing a massive contract. But I don't drive it much because people treat me differently when they see it. I wanted to know if you loved me for me, not my bank account. I sat there, stunned. Part of me wanted to be angry, but honestly, I wasn't. I thought about the nights he still ate ramen with me, even though he could have ordered steak. The way he'd spent weekends helping me study instead of going out. The way he never bragged, never acted like he was better than anyone. He reached over, squeezing my hand nervously. I've almost told you so many times, but I was scared you'd leave if you thought I'd been hiding this. Instead, I laughed through my shock. Jake, you lived in a shoebox apartment and drove a death trap truck just to prove a point. He grinned sheepishly. Guess so. From that day on, things change, but not in the way people might think. Sure, we went on nicer dates sometimes, and he eventually moved into a proper apartment, but he stayed grounded. Same boots, same jeans. Same guy who'd work 12-hour shifts and come home covered in dust. It turned out the money didn't matter. To me, what mattered was that Jake never used it to impress me. He just wanted me to see the man behind it tanned. That's exactly why I fell for him, even harder. Story 2, they skipped my baby shower, left a 30-cent note with the bartender. Sold your car, we're cruising first class. Be happy for us. I whispered, I am. Then drove home with 2 movers, cleared the items I'd gifted, took a photo, sent it. To the family chat. 55 messages, 1 email from someone I thought I'd lost. But the real shock was my mom's follow-up. He's coming home. Be gentle. I kept glancing at the door. Every time it opened, a part of me braced. Maybe this would be it. Maybe now. But it wasn't. Just another guest from work. Then my college roommate. Then Mrs. Lynn from downstairs holding a gift bag twice her size. Not them. The band was playing something soft in the background. Tulip arrangements lined every table. The cake was flawless. 3 tiers, white and gold. Delicate sugar peonies curled along the edges. I had chosen every detail, paid for every detail, and every time someone smiled and said, "You did all this yourself." I just nodded. The baby moved slightly inside me. I exhaled, tried to ignore the chair that sat empty beside mine. And the one next to that, and the one across. You okay? James, a guy from legal, leaned in. They still not here? I just smiled. Running late, maybe he didn't push it. Just handed me a card with a duck in a suit and wandered off. 0.10 minutes later. Claire took the mic. My best friend since high school. She raised a glass and said to the strongest woman I know. Everyone clapped. I smiled, and still those chairs still empty. Still nothing. No call, no text, no explanation. Just the echo of silence where their voices were supposed to be. I stood to thank everyone. My hands trembled just slightly as I touched the mic. Thank you for coming. I said it means more than you know. I saw them faces from every part of my life. Coworkers, neighbors, old classmates, people who remembered my birthday, who offered to paint the nursery, who brought extra cupcakes just in case. But not my mother, not my sister, not a single person who shared my blood. As the applause faded, I turned back to my table. And that's when the bartender approached. Young guy, nervous, holding a folded piece of paper and a check receipt. Someone asked me to give this to you, he said. Said you'd understand. I opened it. 30 cents, scrolled next to it on a crumpled napkin. Sold your car. First class cruise. Be happy for us, Mom and Kayla. I just stared at it for a second. The words didn't register. My car gone. My baby shower skipped. The cruise I wasn't invited to. The paper trembled in my fingers, but my voice didn't. I folded the note, slipped it in my purse, took a breath, then whispered the only thing I could manage to know. One in particular. I am, and walked out. I didn't cry on the drive home, didn't scream, didn't call anyone. The baby kicked again at a red light, like a reminder that I wasn't alone. And that's when something clicked. They hadn't just skipped my baby shower. They'd sold my car, a car I'd fully paid for last November. A car I used to get to doctor's appointments, to prenatal classes, to the late-night pharmacy when I couldn't sleep. The cruise they were on, 7 nights, first class, balcony cabin. Exactly the package Kayla had shown me just for fun 3 weeks ago. She said, "Can you imagine dropping $7,000 just to sit on a boat and tan?" Apparently, they could, as long as it was my money. At home, I opened the hall closet and pulled out the little blue folder. Receipts, invoices, proof. I'm not a lawyer, but I document things. Always have. $3,000. The full furniture set I bought. For Kayla, when she got her first apartment, said she'd pay me back once she settled in. That was 3 years ago. $1,200. The flat screen I gifted Mom 2 Christmases ago. She cried when I handed it over. Said, "You're too generous." $850. The washer-dryer combo from last year's prime sale. I installed it myself while they were on vacation. $2,400. The gray sectional Kayla just had to have after her breakup. "I'll pay you back," she said. "Just not this month." That was just the start. By the time I hit $10,000, I stopped tallying. They never paid me back, never offered, and still had the nerve to take the one thing I didn't give, my car. That's when I made the call. 2, actually. The first to a moving company. I knew the guy from the building next door. His cousin ran logistics. I gave him 3 addresses and a list. The second to Claire. "I need you to drive the truck," I said. "I'll handle the rest." She didn't even ask. Be there in 40. By the time the movers arrived, I had Post-its on every item. That was mine. Every gift, every favor, every piece of my generosity they'd absorbed like it was their right. Claire pulled up with a black baseball cap and a protein bar. "You're glowing," she said. "Rage," I replied. We started with my mom's condo. The movers were professional. Quick, polite. I pointed to the fridge. "Gifted December 2022. They nodded and unplugged it. Then the TV, the Dyson, the bookshelf I custom ordered from that overpriced woodworker Kayla found on Instagram. Next, Kayla's apartment. We took the couch, the wall mirror, the Nespresso machine. One neighbor poked their head out and asked if she was moving. "She doesn't know yet," I said. By sundown, the truck was full. I didn't sell anything. Yet. I just parked it in a friend's garage and took a photo. Then I opened the family group chat, captioned the photo, $112, 784.63 reimbursed. Not to shame them, just to acknowledge the imbalance, quietly, clearly, then turned off my phone. By 9:42 a.m., the consequences started hitting. Not quietly, not slowly, they hit like hail on glass. The first ping came from Kayla. No greeting, no punctuation. "What is wrong with you?" Then 3 dots. Then again, "You took the couch." I didn't answer. I was in the kitchen making tea, hands steady, despite the adrenaline humming in my veins. Roy Boss, no caffeine. I needed clarity, not fuel. While the kettle whistled, more messages rolled in. "You shouldn't have done that." "Return the couch. Today, you're acting crazy." I walked back to the living room. No more flat screen. No more sleek espresso machine. Just my old TV, a chipped mug, and peace. Only the slight echo of my steps bouncing off an apartment that looked freshly moved into or freshly abandoned. Every item gone had a memory. The dining table I once built for $80 and hosted 6 holidays on. Gone. The full-length mirror. Kayla borrowed because lighting's better at your place. Gone. The espresso machine they mocked me for. So unnecessary until they started showing up every weekend for cappuccinos. Gone. Another ping. Mom, this time. Did you really take those things from home? Hormones? Oh, of course. The fallback strategy. Dismiss. Shame. Guilt. They skipped my baby shower. They stole my car. They left a 30-cent tip with a smug note, and I was the unstable one. I didn't reply. At 11:08 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mom. I stared at the screen, let it buzz, let it ring, and then picked up. Her voice was already boiling. You think this is funny? What you did? No, I said. I think it's balanced. You took our furniture, my furniture, bought with my money, delivered under my name. You're so spiteful lately. It's disturbing. Swallowed. Not rage, not tears, just tired clarity. You mean I stopped handing things over without question? That's what's disturbing. Silence. Then a tone shift. The faux-cerned one she uses when trying to de-escalate before holidays. We just thought with your baby coming soon, you'd be too busy. For Kayla, we wanted to give her a little something, a gesture to remind her she still matters. You wouldn't want her stressed, would you? Funny, you didn't worry about my stress when I was left sitting in that venue alone, explaining to confused guests why half the RSVPs didn't show. She felt bad about that. No, she didn't. I snapped. She felt entitled to a week in Tulum and figured I'd understand. Like always, Mom lowered her voice. She's your sister. You're supposed to support each other. I did. I said for 10 years. Rent, phones, loans, your dishwasher, the fridge, the streaming services, the couches, the car. I thought you liked doing those things. I laughed. That awful. Sad kind of laugh you give when someone rewrites your own history in front of you. I liked having a family. Then why are you tearing it apart? No, I said quietly. I'm just refusing to hold it up on my own anymore. I hung up. At 12:42 p.m., Kayla showed up, pounding the door like she owned the building. I watched her through the peephole, pacing back and forth in that hoodie. The one I recognized from the vacation PICs. The same pics where her boyfriend held my car keys, grinning beside my plates. You made me look like a monster. People are asking why we didn't come to the shower. I cracked the door, kept the chain on. Maybe tell them the truth. She blinked. Which version? I continued. The one where you forgot. The one where it was too far to drive. Or the one where you took the only way I had to bring my son home from the hospital. That was a joke, she stammered. The bartender thing. We were tipsy. You left a printed note taped to a check with a heart emoji. God, you're so sensitive. No, I said, I'm just done. I needed that couch. I'm nesting too. I'm pregnant and you've had a village. I've had invoices. She pulled out a pink rattle and let it drop to the floor. It bounced off the floor. Cheap plastic. Clicking against tile. You're punishing my child. That stopped me. I stared for the first time. I saw it. The manipulation wasn't even about me anymore. It was generational. She wanted to keep the cycle alive. I'm protecting mine, I said, and closed the door. At 4:03 p.m., an email came in. Subject, heard what happened. It was from Dad. I hadn't heard from him in over 6 months, ever since his retirement and cross-country RV trip with Lark, his sole partner who made her own kombucha. His message was brief. Your mother told me everything. I'm sorry you went through that. I wasn't always present. I know that, but I'm proud of how you handled yourself. I'll be in town this week. Want to grab coffee? Just us then. P.S. The car was registered in your name. No legal transfer. If you want help filing, I'm here. I stared at the screen, then stared at the couch, now gone. The seat they used to crash on when they had nowhere else. The place where I once stayed up all night. Nursing Kayla's broken heart after a breakup. Empty now, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt reclaimed. I poured myself another cup of tea, and finally, for the first time in weeks, I smiled because this wasn't rage. This was clarity. One I didn't shout about. One I lived quietly, steadily, unapologetically. And I wasn't done. Then a ding, not from the chat. An email from Mike Reynolds. I stared at his name like it was a ghost.
Subject, sad.
Time 1:14 a.m. I clicked it open. CAMILA. I was at the venue. I didn't want to interrupt, and honestly, I wasn't sure I had the right to, but I saw the note. The bartender showed it to me after. I saw the way you held it together. I saw you smile, then vanish. I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner. I should have years ago. But if you ever want to talk, coffee, vent, anything, I'm here. You deserve more than what they gave you. You always did. And I hope you know that what you did today, that took strength most people only dream of. Mike, I didn't realize I was crying. Until I tasted salt. Mike, the boy I dated in college. The one who stayed at my side through every finals week. Who made playlists and wrote dumb poems and asked me once if my family ever really saw me. We drifted after graduation. Life things, job things, Kayla things. Kayla had never liked him, said he was too soft. Now that softness felt like an anchor. I didn't respond. Not yet, but I've read the email 3 times. Then came the final text from Mom at 3:02 a.m. Mom, he's coming home, be gentle. I froze. I read it again. He's coming home. The air around me shifted. The he wasn't Kayla's ex or some cousin. It was my dad. The one who'd bought the car in my name years ago when I needed something reliable to get to. Work. The one who later moved out, divorced Mom quietly, and disappeared to Arizona to live a quiet life away from the family drama. The one who used to say, I'll be the silent one. Your mother's got enough fire for both of us. He had been silent. For years until now, I texted back, me? What do you mean? No answer. But that morning, I got a voicemail. Dad, first words in 4 years. Camila, I just wanted to say I know about everything. And I'm sorry I wasn't there when this started, but I'm here now. I filed a report about the car. It's legally in your name. They can't just sell it. It's already flagged. There will be consequences. I just wanted you to hear it from me. He paused, then added, I'm proud of you, kid. I should have said it sooner. I sat on the floor for 20 more minutes. Kayla tried calling 5 times. Mom emailed 1 line. You've gone too far. Fix it. I didn't reply. I opened the group chat again. It was now a war zone of backpedaling and excuses. Kayla. Okay, maybe it was out of line. Mom, the bartender, misunderstood. We meant it to be funny. Kayla, Kim, you took it too seriously. Mom, family makes mistakes. But this, you don't come back from this. That one hit different. I whispered aloud to no one. Good. I made tea, sat by the window, thought about the baby still turning inside me like a quiet tide. Then I texted Mike. Thanks for writing. I remember the poems. He replied instantly. I still have them. Want one? I laughed. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't forced. A month passed, but it didn't feel like time moving forward. It felt like something releasing its grip on me. It's a kind of silence that doesn't echo. It breathes. My son arrived early, 2 weeks before his due date, without drama or fanfare, no gasps and waiting rooms, no balloons or handmade signs, just a cold delivery. Room and a single nurse whispering, "You're almost there." As I pushed through pain I never thought I could survive. I did. And the moment I heard that cry, sharp, wet, and defiant, I knew he was here. He was mine. And no one could diminish him or me again. They hadn't called. Not when I went into labor. Not when the doctors wheeled me in. Not when I left the hospital with a newborn in my arms and a rideshare waiting at the curb. The people who had claimed to be family had vanished the moment they realized I would not come crawling back. But I didn't need crawling. I needed rebuilding. The house had changed. Not just the things. Sure, their fridge was gone. The borrowed TV, the couch I once gave away, all gone, but my place wasn't empty. I replaced every item I took with something I chose, not out of guilt, out of intention. A cheaper but more reliable washer. A second-hand sofa with a stain that looked like a flower. It made me laugh. A flat screen from a friend who was moving out of town, and shelves filled not with designer knickknacks, but with books I actually read. I no longer saw reminders of what I had given away. I saw only what I had reclaimed. Even the walls felt different, like they had exhaled with me. One night, I lit a candle, not to relax, to mark something. The end of a war I hadn't declared, but had to survive anyway. I had one quietly, without press releases. Then came the buzz, the chat. It had been silent since that night. The night I took back what was mine and sent the photo that lit up. 55 notifications in a family that couldn't be bothered to RSVP to my baby shower. Now there were 3 new messages. Kayla, congrats, I heard. Mom, hope everything went okay. Mom again, can we come visit sometime just to see the baby? I stared at them, not angry, not sad, just still. This wasn't remorse. This wasn't accountability. It was control rebranded as concern. It was a test to see if I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. I remembered everything. The note at the baby shower, sold your car. Cruising first class, be happy for us. The way the bartender paused before handing it to me like he knew this wasn't a joke. The way my heart sank, but my spine locked. The friends who rallied around me that night, bringing lightness where there had been only weight. The movers, kind, quiet, precise, helping me clear out every item I'd gifted over the years. My silence afterward wasn't passive. It was my power, and now they wanted back in. Not because they missed me, but because they feared they were missing out. I walked to the nursery. Noah was sleeping, his tiny hands curled into fists near his face. I sat down beside him, phone still in my hand, and read the messages again, just to see the baby. They hadn't seen me in months, but they wanted access to him. I thought of the emails. One in particular. Mike, I was there. I saw everything. I should have said something, but I didn't know how. I'm sorry, and I'm proud of you. If you ever need anything, you've got me for real, Mike. The only person from that event who had reached out without agenda. He didn't want back in. He just wanted me to know I wasn't invisible. And then the second shock. Mom, he's coming home. Be gentle. 5 words. 5 words that flipped something over in my stomach. She meant Dad. The one who left, or maybe the one who was pushed out. The man who put the car in his name back when I was 22 and couldn't get full insurance. He hadn't spoken to me since until the legal notice. It was him. He filed the challenge. He made the sale of the car invalid. He forced the paperwork into review. He did what no one else had done. He stepped in when something sacred was crossed. And now, apparently, he was coming home. Not to Mom, to me. I wasn't sure. There were too many gaps, too many memories still frayed at the edges. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that the people who had laughed at me were now scrambling. The group chat, the emails, the backpedaling. But I wasn't walking toward them. I was standing still. Finally, I scrolled to the top of the chat, saw every message since last year. Every joke, every dismissal, every time they ignored me or erased me or used my generosity as a ladder, and I pressed leave group. Are you sure? Yes, I turned. Off the phone, walked into the living room, picked up Noah, held him, rocked him, let his warmth settle into my bones, and whispered, "They took my car. I took my silence back." It wasn't about noise, it was about freedom.